I have an outreach formula that I use. There's nothing like reaching out to others to build your business. And so my outreach formula is if you need full-time work, you spend 4 hours a day reaching out to others, connecting, asking for favors, talking about your situation, asking for help, offering help. If you need to make a half-time income, 2 hours a day, a quarter-time income, an hour a day, and just the rest of us to maintain our businesses, 15 minutes to 30 minutes a day of reaching out, connecting with others, maintaining your relationships, cold calls.
Greetings, entrepreneurs. Welcome to the Authorpreneur Secrets podcast, the show that uncovers the secrets to win with books beyond book sales and dominate entrepreneurship. Through exclusive author interviews, stories, and must-have resources, you will discover some of the secrets and strategies to thrive with books and generate lasting income. I invite you to become an Authorpreneur ambassador and join me in my mission to raise up 10,000 Caribbean entrepreneurs by 2030. Spread the word about the podcast and encourage more people to increase their impact and income with books beyond book sales. Without further ado, let's get into the show. Today I have with me author Sharon Woodhouse. She's a former indie book publisher and current owner of Conspire Creative, a book business agency that offers coaching, consulting, project management, and business support services for authors and independent publishers just like us. She writes about all aspects of creating holistic income-generating author businesses you love and finding your place in the vibrant ecosystem of books. She has helped tens of thousands of authors and publishers through her teaching, group coaching, and writing. In 1994, Woodhouse founded her first publishing company and created a small staff, the beloved Chicago brand of Lake Claremont Press. LCP published over 500,000 books, wow, of 80 different titles in its 25 years and won 30 small press awards. Can you say we have an OG in the building?
Yes.
In 2001, she started Everything Goes Media LLC to encompass her growing range of book industry activities. But what brings her here today is her book, The Profitable Author, 1,001 Ways to Build a Business You Love Around Your Books. And she's going to talk to us about that very enlightening book today. So welcome to the show, Sharon.
Thank you, Ruth. Good to be here.
It's good to have you. And this is a question I ask all my non-Caribbean guests. Have you ever been to the Caribbean? If so, which island and how was that experience?
Sure. Well, I've been to Puerto Rico twice. I've been to Cancun. And just last month, I was in Nassau, Bahamas for the first time.
Okay,
And
awesome.
so when you're from a cold weather climate like Chicago, you can never go wrong going to the Caribbean in the winter. But I am not such a beach person. I really just like absorbing the vibe of a place, finding out the things that you weren't expecting. So like in Puerto Rico, it was the blue cobblestone streets of Old San Juan and this little neighborhood where they filmed Despacito. And in Nassau, we were learning about this group of fish stands that showed stuff just outside of the tourist area where they sold different small restaurants. The pirate history of Nassau was kind of interesting. And in both places, I'm not a cruise person. I was just sort of shocked to encounter the cruise ship economy and just the amount of money that must dump into these ports. So there's that. And the sun and the water, the color of the water. So I guess Jamaica's next.
Yes. And yes,
Yeah.
majority of our economies, it's dependent on tourism. So cruise shipping and other things vital to our economy. So now I have to put Nassau, because I haven't been there yet, on my list,
Yeah.
and Puerto Rico on my list. So thank you. All right. So talk to us a little bit about your author journey and some of the highlights, especially with such a publishing career, illustrious career spanning over 30 years.
Well, I started in 1994. I had a philosophy degree and didn't know anything really about the corporate world or, a lot just how to get a job or what the world expected of you. And so I always loved books and I thought I might be a writer. But the minute I discovered publishing, and it was just the very earliest days of self-publishing and desktop publishing, I had borrowed a computer to write my first book, which was a guidebook to Chicago. And it just involves so much hands-on sort of entrepreneurship, putting my books in a cart and taking the cart to different bookstores and showing them it. So from the very beginning, I got used to getting out of my comfort zone, approaching people in person, starting conversations. And then I published a second book that a friend of mine wrote on Chicago ghost stories, and it was so popular, it set me up. So as an example, and we split the profits, so it wasn't a traditional author-publisher relationship, but that first book made $50,000 for me. So I had the wrong idea of how publishing worked, but I set up a business, and I set up a business, and then uh, other people told me what would work, and everyone said you should stick with Chicago and Chicago history, and I did it. It's regional books are, and especially from a big city like Chicago, is one great way to build a publishing company. You could get to know all the people you need to know in the media, in the bookstores, in the library world, the events world, and develop a relationship, and then just keep feeding new authors and new stories to people. So that was the model that I built my first company on. And it just provided an endless amount of challenges and a growing network of people and relationships that were wonderful. And then recently, when I closed that company, I was able to donate all of our stuff to the Chicago Public Library archives because they have an authors and publishers section. So it was kind of cool just to put our stuff into the library archives for posterity, for whatever that's worth. Yeah, but it was fun. And for someone who didn't know what they were going to do with their life, it sort of emerged by default, by default. And then as I was wrapping up the business, I learned that I actually do have a specialty and a passion, and that is helping authors build businesses around their books. And so I'm a fan of entrepreneurship and an entrepreneurial approach, even if you don't need the money, because a lot of times I work with retirement authors. But by taking on the attitude and behaviors of an entrepreneur, you really get out of your comfort zone, you take risks, and it's the sort of thing that brings you the things you want from your book, regardless if it's financial or not. So I love that. I'm good at it. And I am a fan of all authors, traditionally published, small published. I am not one of those literary gatekeeper types. I really think there's a role for everyone, and you can find it. And sometimes you find it by just making one decision at a time.
Thank you. I love that. I think we have a kindred spirit there where that is concerned, not gatekeeping and trying to collaborate to make, everybody win in this thing. But to piggyback on what you just said in terms
Sure.
of starting the publishing company and you've closed it and you mentioned that it's been good, but there have been some challenges. Now, I've been on this journey a decade and
Yeah.
I resisted publishing for others for a very long time, or did it reluctantly. And so, what are some of the challenges you have found in it? Maybe the top three or so. How were you able to overcome them so that you could stay in the business for 30 years? I don't know if
Mm,
I want to continue publishing for others for 30 years. I'd like to maybe in the next 10 years or so pass this
yeah.
on. To talk to me about running a publishing business.
I think some of the biggest lessons, the biggest problems I have, I didn't solve until after I left publishing for others. So I'll let you benefit from that. One is I think I took on too much responsibility for the authors. People come to you, they have this great emotional need to get all these things from their book, and I tried to do all the things. And that is also what led me to coaching, because in coaching, you don't take responsibility for other people. You just guide them and encourage them, and you help them tap into the resources inside to get what they want. So I would say one is don't overperform for authors. And that sounds awful because I'm an advocate for authors, you are. But I think you know what I mean by that. You don't overperform. They have to pull their weight and you collaborate. But your job is to keep the publishing company going. An author should know the difference. And sometimes that means distributing resources in a way that not everyone likes. So that's one. Number two is money management. And that is, I have since discovered the profit first method, which, if you haven't heard of it, is a book you should use. And it really helps you keep your profit front and center from the day one and helps you divide your money into buckets, which I know is the basis of a lot of people's budgeting system, but I did not apply it to my business at the time. So that's what I would say is, learning the profit first method for running a business, to keep yourself honest and to keep the perspective on running the company. Your job is to keep a company going so that you can still publish books. And I think the Caribbean is a great specialty, Caribbean authors. Is that what you are going to focus on?
Yes, that's a big part of our focus in terms of building Caribbean legacy, ensuring
Yeah,
that our books are out there, that we have a place in this diverse storytelling world. So that's
yeah,
primarily my passion, to highlight the achievements of our people for posterity and to inspire the next generation. So that's
yeah,
my primary audience for my book.
yeah.
But the Vision 2030 series of 10,000 authorpreneurs. But even as I'm doing my dissertation research, some of those that I would classify as authorpreneurs, they're not even seeing themselves as an authorpreneur.
I'm going to tell you, when I was in the Bahamas, I was in their National Art Gallery, and they had the typical books you might see in an art museum, or that I might see in an art museum. And then they had lots of books by local authors. So
Yeah.
Bahamian authors were everywhere. So that was awesome. I took a picture and shared it on my blog as an example. But I also saw books by local authors at coffee shops, etc. So, I mean, obviously, you're probably already selling in places like that in Jamaica, but even people on vacation, like buying books from local authors.
Yes, yes, there's a growing market. And we do sell more books direct, even though majority of us would go on Amazon. It's really direct
Ah,
selling
yes,
that really fuels our kind of business. But like I said, as I'm doing the research, our sales are, it's still within the average of what we're finding outside the region. But I want to go back to what you said in terms of the business, because you said two key things. Because one way of being an entrepreneur is publishing for other authors and offering author services.
hmm
Is you hit the nail on the head. You cannot take the responsibility for the author's success. And
right.
so often the authors come and they want you as a publisher to do everything. And then the second thing you mentioned, which is key, I don't want our audience to miss it, is profit first. So very often, like for me, coming from a non-profit background, missionary
hmm
serving,
Yeah,
uh, sometimes you're not thinking about the profit. You just want to help everybody.
right.
Have to keep the business going. And so you have to look at it. How is the business going to profit from this arrangement? And so if nothing else, that's for me. So I want
Yeah,
to thank you for sharing those two tips.
sure. Yeah, I mean, economic empowerment is important for everyone. And
Yeah,
especially small scale. I am such a fan of small scale economic wins and local economies. So,
boosting the local economy. I love it. So this is a nice way to segue to the book, The Profitable Author. Talk to us about that. 1,001 ways. That's a lot. And some of those tips that you think will work for us coming from the book.
sure. I mean, what's kind of funny is that the book is comprised of I think, the 100 most foundational articles that I've written. I wrote about 300 starting in the pandemic, and I'm still writing some. And it started as a way to just get everything I had learned as a publisher out of me. because I thought I was going to move on to something else. But actually, the more I wrote and the more people responded to it, I realized that I did have this specialty and a kind of a different perspective on it, that started with, really taking the entrepreneurial approach, even if money isn't your primary goal. Because, like I said, you can't expect other people to be responsible for your success. You have to sort of take it on yourself. What do I want? How am I going to get it? So some of the things that I talk about in the book there are 15 sort of income streams that I see authors can make. There's about 12 different templates for business models that authors can use just to get started. I talk about 7 pillars that I think all successful author businesses of any size can follow, and 8 ways you can customize your sales and marketing. So all these things that I've sort of just been documenting over the years and that I kind of see are true for people in general. The other thing I like to teach people is that, especially the adults, who are successful in other fields or who don't, are business adverse, I'd like to encourage people, start business as a hobby. Let it sort of grow on you, dabble in it, but just don't reject it. Give it a try. And if you don't know what to do, copy others. I mean, it's like it's an open book test, as someone said, and most people won't even copy the answers. Just ask other people what works, and sort of you could even use yourself as a guide. What interests me? What do I see other people? Sometimes envy or jealousy, even if you're, those little feelings like, oh, someone's doing a book signing at a bookstore. Why can't I have that? Oh, there's an author on the radio. How do I do that? I mean, all you have to do is ask people, including asking Google or AI, and then just giving it a shot. I think one thing I'd really like to tell people is this isn't rocket science. Business is not rocket science. It is overcoming your internal, and usually it only takes 1 or 2 things to start becoming comfortable with something. And I think that really reveals how little people are risking sometimes. It only takes 1 or 2 events, speaking events, 1 or 2 podcasts to get comfortable with something. Making cold calls, maybe it takes 5 or 10. But I really try to encourage people, the people who are sales adverse, to just have conversations with others, find out what they want. How can you develop partnerships around your books? So I think there's 3 ways that any author should think about if they're trying to generate income from their book. They are events, volume sales, and some big thing that's unique to you. So for instance, like you have a conference and you're thinking of a publishing company. That's big. That's the sort of thing that someone needs. For volume sales, this means selling 12 books to a bookstore, 500 to a hotel for a hotel room, 100 for a conference, 1,000 for a keynote speaking event. And it sounds daunting if you've never done it before, if you just published on Amazon. So one of the things the book covers is just how to transition from being a digital author to maybe having a stack of books in your garage or your basement because you need climate control environment with books. So the pages, you probably have maybe humidity issues there. How do you build up to that, and what sort of organizations or entities are even buying books in bulk? I mean, one time this was my biggest volume sale. I sold 6,000 books to a summer reading program for the Chicago Public Schools. And I didn't pursue that, but I knew what to do when it came my way, how to coordinate shipping 3 pallets of books to them, etc., what price discount they needed, and things like that. So that's a start of what's in the book. And it covers mindset and strategy and sales, marketing, business development. And I don't know. I think just so much of it is how to start, do stuff, how to reach out, how many contacts it takes a day. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot, but you get used to it.
Right. I saw that. So I'm so glad you said that. Events, because I am in my mind trying to frame a marketing strategy that could be
Yeah.
uniquely Caribbean or uniquely
Mm,
something that my company does. So when you talked about some of those things, I was excited. I think it's the last podcast or the previous two, I said that events sell books. And you don't have to organize those events. You can be a part of it. But once you do some event online or offline, books tend to go irrespective of the format. So, like at our publishing summit, we had a multi-author book launch and we put on this event. And I prefer small books, right? I encourage small books. But the book that sold the most that day was by a fiction author. It was almost 500 pages. And she gave a talk on how to get a traditional publishing deal at the event.
yeah.
And I had books sold too. And so when you
Mm,
talk about partnering and bulk sales, you've really given us some simple keys. And so you have to think, what's the community that I could tie into? Who would be interested in this book? And figure out a way to get them to buy. And I think Caribbean people would be comfortable with that, because even if you're not speaking, it's behind the scenes, right? Because
yeah,
you know many authors are introverts, and some of them don't want their faces out there. But it works a lot, especially for nonfiction books, but it could also work for children's books if you
sure.
encourage entities to buy these books in bulk. So I really am grateful for that. But can we recap a bit? You said that you saw at least 15. It's a lot, 100 different foundational models, but 15 top ones. Of the 15, which three you saw most profitable of that business model, the 15
Mm.
streams? Could you give us the top three?
Sure. Well, I'm going to use like you as an example because I feel like you represent maybe three of the business models put together. One is authors building other authors. That is good because there are always more authors that need the knowledge that you have. The entrepreneurial author, someone who finds something in their content on which they can build a business around that's not just the books, because we're all entrepreneurial authors. And I would say you're a thought leader author. I mean, you're mission driven. So those are three business models that I talk about in there. Another good one is the one that my company was built on, the regional author, where you just keep using your regional knowledge to reach out to people in your region. And I mean, I know regional authors with one book on narrow topic, baseball history, ancestry research, that have been making money on the same book for 7 to 10 years. They go on radio shows repeatedly. They're repeatedly in all the same newspapers. They go to all the libraries in the region. They go to organizations and give lunch talks. So regional author, I think, is really solid, especially if you're some from, high profile regions, let's say. Uh, there's the classic author, but we're not going to talk about them. Those are the big shots. They get the traditional contracts. Another business model I like to tell people is the day job author. You have a day job, but it's part of your business model because it makes your author life possible. So, and a day job author can also be one that's transitioning into a full-time author. And I think my book helps people with that transition and the idea. So don't, don't diss your day job. Your day job is helping make the rest possible. And now you can start transitioning at whatever feels safe for you to a different type of author. Um,
Well,
Another type of author that is very specific to the internet is sort of the self-published genre author, the people who are writing, niche sci-fi, niche werewolf, niche mysteries. And so it's very easy through digital means and digital ads and all the online ways to find exactly who wants to read your book and then just keep putting out more books for them. And so I know a few people who do that, take that route.
yeah, you've just given us a lot of golden nuggets, and this conversation is affirming because I
Good,
was a
good.
day job author. For my first four books, it was a part-time job
Mhm.
that funded the publication. And it is through the offering of the services to other authors
Yeah,
that I gain sustainable income because now it would be
right.
predictable. You have a clientele. And so you've just given us, gold from that. And so thank you so much for that.
Ah,
As I listened to your book, and you used AI for the recording, which I am AI positive as well. Yes, and you were upfront with it.
yeah.
And it was good. I want to ask two questions. Uh, did you use 11 Labs, or which tool did you use? And then the other part is this interesting thing that you talked about in terms of defensive entrepreneurship. I don't want our conversation to end without getting into that, but talk to us about the audio book process using
Oh,
AI, just a little bit.
there was no process because Amazon said, "Would you like to do this?" Click a box, choose a voice, and it was done in 5 minutes. So I can't I can't offer you more than that.
But they don't do it for everybody. I saw in one of my authors, Amazon put, this book is eligible for audio. So you just click on that, follow through, and then it will just
They sent
produce
an
it.
email. They sent an email, and I couldn't believe how easy, well, it was beyond easy. It was just really a few clicks.
So is this only available to a couple regions or countries?
I no, I don't know what the rhyme and reason is. I know only some of my clients have received the email, not everyone. So maybe it's specific, maybe it's like business books are more likely. I don't know.
Or it's in beta and they're testing
I
it?
think it is in beta, and you can pick male or female reader, US English, British English, and then it sounds like maybe they're different ages, the readers. So I tried to pick someone that was about my age.
And
Uh,
almost sounds like you as well.
I tried. I mean, there's only 6 options or 12 or whatever.
No, this interview is just so boggling. I will investigate that some more
Yes, you
because I
should.
did see on one of my authors. He said this book is eligible for audiobooks. I'm going
Hmm.
to touch base with him. And wow. Okay, back to the book. Final questions in terms of
Sure.
the profitable author. Defensive entrepreneurship. What is that?
Yeah, I love this. Defensive entrepreneurship is the idea that it's useful for all of us to know how to be an entrepreneur. And that might be one way for people to sort of dip their toe in it. It means, like, I see all these people, government employees in the US right now, losing their jobs. They were always dependent on a really nice job, and maybe they don't have a backup plan. But I think entrepreneurship can be a backup plan for almost everyone, and authors can think of it that way. I'm putting a little business in place in the background in case I ever need a backup plan, in case I ever lose my job unexpectedly, or I'm forced to move, or anything that might affect your income. I think, knowing how you can make a living on your own is a really useful skill. And as long as you have a book, don't treat it just as, a fun little thing you do, but how can I use this to learn this very important backup plan, because what isn't, and it's a great backup plan because it's something you also love, right? Something you love talking about. So that's the other, and just another concept of entrepreneurship that I like to promote is it's a good plan B or plan C or plan D.
How do you practice it? Any practical tips? What steps or systems do you need to put in place apart from thinking that as a backup plan, if I lost my job, how would I, you know,
Mhm.
how do I become a defensive entrepreneur?
Well, one is just to put the pieces of a business in place. So you sort of build the container of a business so that business can flow into it, I guess. And that is, the legal structure and accounting structure, systems, an ideal work schedule, how much you would like to make, how you're going to get there. But uh, I also I have an outreach formula that I use. There's nothing like reaching out to others to build your business. And so my outreach formula is if you need full-time work, you spend 4 hours a day reaching out to others, connecting, asking for favors, talking about your situation, asking for help, offering help. If you need to make a half-time income, 2 hours a day, a quarter-time income, an hour a day, and just the rest of us to maintain our businesses, 15 minutes to 30 minutes a day of reaching out, connecting with others, maintaining your relationships, cold calls. And then I have a super kick in the pants method from an author I know who used it when she was raised as a single mom raising 3 kids. And it's the make 1,000 calls a month plan. 50 calls a day, 50 calls a day for 20 days. Uh, just and only phone calls, leaving messages counts, but you're just reaching out and asking people for work, or in the case of an author, asking bookstores for sales, asking libraries for events, asking reporters for a story, asking podcasters for a podcast. And she said to get the work she needed, she never had to make 1,000 calls a month. So I call that the if you really need to jumpstart your income, that is her proven method, and I believe it. I follow the 5 things a day method.
I'm awestruck. I'm here just sitting at your
No one
feet.
wants to do it. No one
And
wants to do it, but it doesn't mean it doesn't work.
you're a godsend. So I am here just like a kid in a candy store listening to you, and I'm like, you said business isn't rocket science.
Yeah,
And so, a lot of my business comes in organically, even though we
yeah,
do these things online, it's referrals.
right.
It's primary referrals. So that formula, I think, can work to give this business a boost, because if you make those calls, uh even if it takes you 2 months, it will still be significant. And then if you
Yeah.
ask each person for a referral, and no, man, I am going to rewind this. I know it's
Yeah.
in the book, it was discussed, but sometimes hearing the person talk about it is good, because you also spent a lot of time talking about the favors economy and how different cultures view that.
Yeah.
People, get this book. If you want to be a profitable author, please get Sharon Woodhouse's book, The Profitable Author, 1,001 Ways to Build the Business You Love Around Books, for authors to do that. I need to bring her on the summit, right? If you want her to come on our
Yes,
Caribbean Entrepreneur Summit, just put a
definitely.
comment in the chat. She's dropping gems on us. Thank you so much, Sharon. Are there
This was
other
so fun. Yeah.
are there other works? Anything you'd like to promote?
I have a Substack community, a paid community. It's $72 a year, and there's probably 5 new articles a week and ways to just ask me questions directly. You can even try that for $8 a month, or there's a free version. So that's what I'd say. It's the profitable author and author business you love on Substack.
Okay.
I have a full business, and just trying to sell the books and more subscriptions for the extra, I suppose. But
What about website? If you're not on Substack, are you on
ah,
social? Any website contact?
yeah. I'm on LinkedIn, Conspire, and my website is conspirecreative.com. That's my business, and the book, profitableauthorbook.com. And I'd like to add that since I reach out, my thing, the day I emailed you as part of that practice. I pitched 2 podcasts that day. I got back to 3 former clients, and that was my outreach for the day. And then I heard back from you right away, and it's my process to email me. The minute someone emails me with such a great opportunity, I take it.
Oh
So,
my goodness, you're a gift. Thank you. I'm going to re-listen the book. I might just get a print copy, because sometimes you just want to sit with something and mark it up
yeah.
and absorb it. And then I'm able to listen to it. You are a gift. Thank you for choosing to create this legacy book, as we would call it in Bamboo Sparks, and
Mhm.
leaving this so that authors can thrive, because I want to help authors to move from struggling authors to thriving entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And hearing somebody else, award-winning author, somebody who's been there, done that, making it simple and practical. I want to congratulate and
Thank
commend
you.
you for the wonderful work that you're doing. And thanks for reaching out. I feel honored to have had you on our podcast.
I was happy to learn about your existence and your summit and your goal for 10,000 Caribbean entrepreneurs. That's awesome. Awesome.
Thank you so much. I trust that you found that interview as inspiring and insightful as I did. It was just packed with nuggets. This is something you have to go back to time and again. And if you want more from her, remember you can join our Substack community. And that's a paid membership to get her newsletter updates. And you can always go to theprofitableauthor.com for more information and get the book. It's in audio, it's in ebook, it's in paperback format. I'm going to order the print book, even though I have the audio, because there are so many gems in that book and practical instruction. It really was an honor to have Sharon on the show to show us that we can do this. And especially for me, as I am doing the dissertation and the findings, I can always piggyback on what Sharon has shared. Her book may even make her way as part of my analysis into that whole thing to compare the data, our findings, with some of the things she shares in her book. We'll see how it goes, but now I'm more excited about my dissertation. I'm excited about entrepreneurship as a result of this interview. I have hope, healthy optimism to persevere to the end. So thank you. Join me reminding you from Ecclesiastes 12:12b of making many books, there is no end. So go pen it to win it and dominate entrepreneurship. For now, until next time.